The world is changing fast. New technologies are impacting how we think about products, services, and the way we live our lives. Nowhere is this trend more present than in financial services, where new business models and customer expectations are changing our conceptions about banking, finance, and the very nature of money. Welcome to Rebank, a visionary podcast about banking, fintech, and the future. The future of banking is here. Hello and welcome to Rebank. I'm your host, Will Beeson. Today we're joined by Catherine Wines. Catherine is the co-founder of WorldRemit, one of the world's foremost digital remittance providers. Founded in 2010, WorldRemit has raised over $220 million from Accel, LeapFrog, and TCV. The platform lets users send money to friends and family in 150 countries, giving people in developing markets access to the financial system at a fraction of the cost of traditional remittance providers. In doing so, WorldRemit empowers local communities, especially women, as Catherine explains. WorldRemit is creating huge value and solving massive problems. It's great to speak with founders as mission-driven as Catherine. Thank you very much for joining us today. Please welcome Catherine Wines. Catherine Wines, welcome to Rebank.
Thank you very much for asking me.
You are the co-founder of WorldRemit. Give us a quick intro to yourself and to WorldRemit.
So I'm an accountant by profession, and I've been running a number of business, small and large, and working in various type of industry. But I got involved in the remittance sector. And when we talk about remittance, it's about sending money, helping people sending money back home, our immigrants who come to work in developed countries and have to send money back to their family to support them for education and all sorts of things. And I've been involved in that sector since the early 2000s. And I was involved in what was called a more traditional sector, which was the offline, i.e. people had to visit an agent to send money, take cash there and use an agent to send money. And back in early 2000, I met with my co-founder, Ismail Hamed, who's also was involved in remittance for many years, but more on the compliance side, and who had obviously first-hand experience because he had to send money back to his family in Somaliland and knew how difficult and expensive it was. So, he wanted to change the model, and I was very much a proponent of that as well. And that's how we started, WorldRemit back in 2010, to very much looking at making it easier, cheaper, faster, and more convenient for people to send money back home.
Yeah. So we've touched on the topic before. We've connected with Michael Kent of Asimo on the podcast in the past. But I think you guys bring, you mentioned Ishmael's background. You guys bring, I think, an interesting angle to all of this, which is kind of much more than exploiting a business opportunity, but it's really about, I think, creating fundamental change in developing areas of the world. And it would be fascinating to get into that a little bit more.
Yeah. We very much have a mission. As you said, Ismail was, knew at first hand the difficulty of sending money, how difficult it was, expensive. He had to sometimes travel, miles to find a location to be able to send money. So it was very much, a personal mission in a way to set up WorldRemit. I've been involved in that sector, and I feel very passionate about that sector as well, because obviously of what we can do and what we can achieve. So it's very much we are a business, but it's also a mission in terms of making it easier for people to send money, especially when you look at the importance of remittances. Remittances account for probably between $500 to $600 billion a year. People are sending around the world money back home, and that accounts for more than 3 times overseas aid. So remittances are so important because they go directly to the people who need it. There's no risk of corruption, and they can then use it for family support, education, health, and also support to business. So the importance of remittances is sometimes underestimated by people around the world because they don't understand the value and the size of the market, and that's very important. And as I said, for us, it's at WorldRemit, it's very much about making sure that our customers can send money safely, cheaply and as easy as possible, because if you had to visit, especially depending on the where you were based, but you can imagine if you are based in Australia where the distance between towns are quite far, if you are a migrant and you've got to send money, then you could easily travel for an hour to 2 hours to send money. If you can just go online and do it at any time, any place, then it makes it a lot easier and much easier for the customer.
So I guess I imagine the fundamental tension in your guys' business, the challenge you come up against is how do you, as cost effectively as possible, manage onboarding, KYC, compliance to deliver a low-cost service?
Yeah, I think we can do it, in fact, much better than the traditional, because traditional players rely on agents, so they have to train sometimes people who are not, financial savvy people, maybe a convenience store or something like this. Whereas we can use technology to onboard people, and when you're online, as anything, you can actually gather better information that you can if you are on a face-to-face sometime or a remote location. So, in fact, we've been able to use the technology to make, compliance easier, more effective, using, machine learning.
Can you kind of walk us through in practical terms, the way someone onboards at WorldRemit and then kind of how they use it on a regular basis? What use case are they solving
so
for?
we find that now most of our customers would go on the app. Obviously you can also onboard on the website, but probably close to 80% of our customers now use the app because it's so convenient and everybody has got a smartphone. And it's a simple process, like you do in a lot of online application. If you register for any products, you have to enter your name, your address, and your date of birth. And obviously the regulation varies from country to country, so some of the requirements and some of the information we ask customer will vary depending, if you're in Japan or if you are in the UK. But generally, the basic information, and then they can load a photo ID simply using their smartphone. And technology allows us to verify those documents in seconds, less than seconds, and confirm that the accuracy of that information.
And in terms of the kind of ongoing use of that, first question, I guess, is there a requirement that people have linked bank accounts, or are you looking to service people who aren't kind of captured by the
No, so on the send side, we are cashless. So yes, customer will require a debit or credit card or a bank account. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point of our model, is that we are totally cashless on the send side. Mm-hmm. So yes, they will need a form of a debit, credit card or bank account. But if you find that in most countries these days, migrants have got bank account and a debit card or a credit card. It's very few countries left in the world where cash is, maybe the UAE, Saudi Arabia are still kind of cash based. But if you look at Europe and the whole of North America, Australia, New Zealand, all these countries, people have got bank accounts. Therefore, they buy their air ticket to go back home online. So they've got access to a mean of payment, online payment.
Mm-hmm. And what about the recipients of the funds?
So that's slightly different, and we've got several options, because in some countries there's no other mean to get your money than in cash. So we obviously still do what we call the traditional cash pickup, and we have a lot of partners in many countries, generally banks or bureau de change, who will offer a pickup location so people can go there, provide their ID and their reference and able to collect cash. But where I think we've differentiated ourselves very quickly is that we looked at the other means of collection, and especially in Africa, where when we started back in 2010, there was an emergence of a system called mobile money that was started in Kenya with the system called M-Pesa, which was a kind of a virtual wallet associated to a mobile. And when we're talking of a mobile, I'm talking of one of those old-fashioned mobile, the type of Nokia we used to have in the early 2000s, not a smartphone. And that people were able to, let's say, associate this mobile number to this virtual account. And I acted a bit like a bank account, but it was simply by using text messages, able to make payments to each other. And we said, well, if people are using that to make payments, receive payments in Kenya, for example, why can't they receive money from abroad, from their family, directly into their mobile money account? And we were, I think, the precursor in terms of seeing this opportunity, and decided to contact all the mobile operators in Africa and enter into partnerships so we could exactly do that. And that's made a big difference in terms, especially in Africa, of people be able to receive money instantly without having to go anywhere, because as soon as the money is sent from their family, let's say in the UK, to their mobile wallet in Kenya, in a few seconds the money can be credited, because we have a connection with the mobile operator, be credited directly to their mobile wallet, and therefore don't have to do anything. As I said, they don't have to travel maybe quite some distances or pay for a bus to go to the next town to collect cash. So I think that has a really kind of I call it a revolution, because it's allowed people to receive money very, very quickly. We also do other method of receipt, like traditional to bank account. Some people in some country have got bank accounts, and we do something called airtime top up, which is just topping up time on a mobile, so people can talk to their family if they want to.
I think one of the things that makes WorldRemit such a fascinating company is the impact that you have in kind of the local recipient communities. Yeah. Can you talk a bit about, I don't know, certainly any specific examples would be great, but about the impact?
No, definitely we've got plenty of examples. I think I said mobile money has had a big impact on a number of things. Obviously, financial inclusion. Before mobile money, people who had only access to cash were not financially included at all. If you look at just Africa, there's about probably 395 million, mobile money account, which is a lot more than actually bank account in Africa. Less than 20% of people in Africa have got a bank account, but a lot of them have got, a mobile. And therefore, with that, they've been able to receive money instantly, and that has a big impact in terms of, the day-to-day, in terms of cost, but also be able to use the money. What has been, what we've seen as well is the financial inclusion of women, because it was not unusual before under the traditional method of sending money, is that because it was time-consuming and costly, you'd find that maybe the sender would send money once a month to the head of the family, who then would distribute the money across, the family. And sometimes women didn't quite get their share, and that that was not unusual. And we've talked, I've got a lot of customers who mentioned that the money that they received was not quite what they expected. Whereas with mobile money, they've been able to become independent, i.e., a lot of women now got their own mobile money account, and therefore their family abroad can send money directly to them without having being distributed to someone else who might take a cut. And as I said, we've had a lot of customers mentioning, a lot of women saying that they felt that they were receiving more money now than in the past. And in fact, what they realized is that maybe their husband or son was taking a little cut on the way back home, and when they were giving their money back to them. So certainly financial inclusion of women has been quite important. But also what we found from the statistics that we can draw from our data is that people in a rural area also benefited, because if you're in a big city in Africa, yes, there's many places where you can collect cash, but when you come in outside the big cities and you are in a rural area, then it's probably not quite as easy. So we found that in fact a lot of the transfers to mobile money go to rural areas, because that makes it so much easier for them to receive money. As I said, they don't have to go anywhere, and then they can use it to make payments very easily. So again, that's another area which has helped. Another which I think is helping, just people have been helping family support for business. We have an example of a lady who is a nurse here in the UK, and she support her 2 sons who set up a little agri-business and now employing people, and she sent them directly into their mobile account and being able to make payments both to their staff but also to their supplier. So mobile money has made a big difference in that respect.
I think you've written on this subject before. I'd be interested in any thoughts you have around kind of the social responsibility that broader tech has toward emerging markets. I think it's everything from kind of access to services, access to devices, because the transformative power that we've seen in the developed world has been phenomenal. I think we're kind of at risk of exacerbating a divide between more and less developed countries unless we're kind of conscientious about the way that we're.
Well, potentially we could say, some of the technology that I mentioned is actually born in Africa. So actually it's the other way around. They have shown us the way to kind of develop products which actually meet the need of people, and we can refer tech for good or whatever. But so I think in that respect, mobile money it's been the other way. They've shown us the way that you can develop a product which actually resolve a big issue like financial inclusion. And certainly mobile technology now, what we see in a lot of application, whether it's in Europe or the US or other developed economies, is the power of mobile technology and what you can do with that. So I said, in fact, I think it worked. It's worked in a different way. I think fintech or tech is about resolving problems, and obviously, as a kind of a founder of a company or a startup, is what you're looking is to resolve a problem, and obviously you need to look at what is that problem and how you can make it resolve an issue which was before kind of maybe taking people out of a system or a financial system.
What impact would things like WhatsApp or Facebook incorporating payment methods into their apps have on WorldRemit?
Well, they have to some extent. I think the main challenge they would have is the same as a kind of a business like ours. Is you've got to build a network in order to make it possible for people to collect cash or whatever they're there. So they have the same problem that getting licenses. For example, just to give you an example, when we went to the US and set up in the US, we have to apply for a license in every state, and that applies to a lot of or other countries in the world. You also got to build a network, i.e., how people are going to receive the money. Especially when you're looking at countries where sometimes the technology is not there, or the means to receive money is still fairly kind of basic, i.e., receiving cash. So I think they would have to kind of work in that. And I think potentially for the moment they're probably not quite ready for that. I think they're probably still looking for the more kind of developed economies where they are financial system kind of working below that, so they can use those financial system. So I think, to me, probably collaboration or partnership is more likely than them developing a system completely on their own, because, as I said, it takes time and a lot of money as well. Not that they've probably got plenty of that, but it takes time to kind of build a network. We are nearly 9 years old, and we've done very well in building a network, but it takes very much time. And then, in fact, it's one of the barriers to entry in this sector of remittances, is because getting the licenses, getting those partnerships take a lot of time.
You've been in this space for years, as you said. With the availability of cheaper, faster remittances, more security of delivery, lower kind of fee skimming off the top, money delivered direct to mobile wallets in some cases. What kind of adjacent opportunities are there for innovators to look at?
Well, first I would say there's one thing is that you might be surprised to find that there's still a lot of remittances which are done in the old-fashioned way, i.e. people sending cash, going to a location, what we call an offline location. So there's still a lot of work to be done first to kind of migrate people from an offline kind of system to an online. And the reason are more, many, and one of them is people, when it comes to financial services, people don't change things. There's a bit of apathy, stickiness. So there's a work to be done to come, and it's moving more faster now, but there's still a bit of work to be done there for people changing. There's still, what we call informal remittances, and that was, maybe due because there was not availability and it was expensive. So again, there's work to be done to...
This is what someone kind of giving cash to someone who happens to be traveling sort of thing?
That's it, yeah, what we call the Awala system. But that, again, because of, government wanted to kind of bring money and funds into the economic system, are trying to discourage them and encourage people to use the formal method. And obviously, if you can find a way to have a quick way to send money and a cheap way, why would you take the risk of giving the money to a bus driver to deliver that money to your family when it might take 2 or 3 days, and there's still a risk that they might not get the money, when you can do it, maybe online, and it arrives instantly into their mobile wallet. So there's that. I think then the next stage is also to look at what else. There's definitely other products which can be linked to money remittance, and you see that already with the mobile operator in Africa, for example. M-Pesa having initially the system was mainly a payment system, but now that people have got that, they can use it for other things, for microloans, savings, and other financial product. And there's definitely kind of a probably trajectory for us in the future to be able to link up with those services and provide the services to kind of people who are in the diaspora to be able to buy those products locally. So there's definitely a way to progress in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you mentioned some of those potentially forthcoming products down the line. What else can people expect from WorldRemit in the future?
Well, for us, as I said, we still got a lot of work to do in terms of just growing the basic remittance, and that's what we continue to do, and to make it easier. That for us is we are very much customer focused, and we spend a lot of time to look at what the product and how easy the product is to use. There's always a risk for companies to add a lot of features, and then that's not what customers want. They want something nice and easy that they can, if you're thinking of someone, who's a nurse working at night, and suddenly a mother from the Philippines calls her because she needs a little bit of money to go to hospital. They don't want all the fancy features. They want something which works quickly and works instantly, and that they don't have to worry about it. So I think it's important to keep concentrating on that and to work on that. The technology changes. We keep looking, for example, at what's happening in technology like blockchain. Is it something that we could use in the future? At this stage, the regulatory environment is a little bit complex to allow for that. But it could help us, make moving funds more quickly, and therefore looking at reducing costs. I think for us, it's still very much that. It's making it easy and reducing costs, because the costs are still high. In some if you look at the World Bank statistics, the average cost of sending money around the world is about 7 to 7.2%. But if you look at Africa, it's actually more like 9%, and in some places it's actually higher than that. So there's still a lot of work to be done to reduce, the cost of remittance. So is it through the technology, through the partnership, and so there's a fair amount of work to be done there. The World Bank SDG is to reduce it to 3% by 2030. It is a challenge because of the environment, the current environment. There are a lot of costs which is difficult to decrease in order to reach that 3%.
Yeah. Well, you guys are clearly playing a part in achieving that goal. Catherine Wines, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into Rebank. If you like today's show, reach out. Follow us on Twitter at Rebank Podcast and join the conversation. For more on banking, fintech, and the future, check out our regular content at www.bankingthefuture.com.